Hi, my name is Susan, and I'm going to demonstrate how to assemble a wedding cake or a special occasion cake using fresh flowers, some inexpensive cake supports, and some basic pastry bag skills. Now, making a large wedding cake or special occasion cake may seem kind of large and intimidating, but you really don't need an engineering degree or culinary arts degree in order to do this. There's three basic parts of putting together a wedding cake or special occasion cake. There's the preparation of the cake itself, there's the assembly, and then there's decoration. We're going to focus on the second two because they can really be used with any kind of frosted cake. So in order to assemble a cake, the goal is just to keep a multi-tier cake together. A lot of books do talk about inserting dowels or things into cake, but that can be a bit tricky. So what I'm going to use are these pillars which go into the cake. These are inexpensive. You can purchase them at really any local party store or online. And then this plastic circle or cake circle that supports, you get a little bit larger than the cake it's going to support. And basically the way these work together is that the top fits into the pillars, and basically that supports the weight of one cake above another, so you don't have to worry about a cake sitting directly on top of the one below it. So the first thing to do when you have these pillars, and you're going to want 4 for every layer that you need to support a layer above it, is you just want to line it up and just kind of eyeball it and make sure that it's the right height and you have the right distance between layers. I like to have several inches between layers because it makes it easy to put flowers in between, but that's really a personal decision how much space you want. If it turns out that this is too high, it's easy enough to just cut it down, mark it, and cut it with a serrated knife to make it fit. So since I'm using these as is, the next step is to take this plastic plate, which will support the cake layer above it, and you're going to gently place it on the cake below it, and you're going to gently press in, not all the way, but just enough so that it'll mark, you can see the 4 X's that will mark exactly where the pillars are going to go. And then the next thing that you're going to do is just to take these 4 cylinders, and then you're going to insert them directly over where they're marked and press all the way down, firmly to the bottom. Now, one tip is that if you're doing this for a multi-layer cake, if you have 3 or even 4 layers, you want to do this for all layers at once on the table. You don't want to be pushing these pillars down into a middle layer when it's already balanced on the lower layer. But for today, I'm making a 2-layer cake, so I'll just do this on the bottom layer. And this is the 4th layer going in. So once you have the 4 pillars securely pushed all the way to the bottom, it's just a matter of lining up the 4 indentations on the top part, pressing it down, and there you have your support system ready to put the top layer on the cake itself. And so now I need to transfer this cake to the tray. Typically what I do is to put a little dab of frosting on the bottom, and that's just a little extra glue or insurance just to keep the cake from moving around. And now we're all set to transfer the cake to the platter. I'm just going to grab the cake underneath the cardboard round that I have underneath it. The cardboard round keeps the layers of the cake clean as well as supported. And I'm just going to transfer it right over to the platter. And then for the layer that goes on top of that, it's the same thing. I'm just going to put a little dab of frosting on it, just as a little extra glue to keep it from slipping around. Then I will take this middle layer cake, or in this case it's the top layer cake. I have it on an extra cardboard round, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just keep it on the one cardboard round that I have underneath it to keep it supported. I'll put it right on top of the support system. And now we have the cake ready to decorate. And now I'm going to decorate the wedding cake using a pastry bag that we have already assembled. So what I'm going to use for this cake is called a shell border. And in order to do that, again, you take the tip of the pastry bag with a star tip on it, about a 45-degree angle. You're going to place it down, you're going to squeeze gently, and then bring it up and bring it down and taper it off. And that's one shell. Then you repeat the same thing again. So we can see we gently move the cake around as we continue the shell. I've got it mounted on a turntable, and I continue the border around the cake. And really what this border does is it just finishes off the top and the bottom of the cake and makes it look nice. And now I'm just moving down to the bottom of the top tier. And the reason you want to do a border down here as well is you've left a little bit of the cardboard sticking out of the bottom of the cake, and that makes it easier to transport. So another purpose of the border is not only to look nice, but also to cover up that little bit of cardboard that you've left sticking out. And now you just repeat this technique on the bottom tier. And then the next part of the cake is putting a decoration on the sides. So all I'm going to do is just do a little reverse curve. I'm going to start about 2/3 of the way up and just do a backward curve. And now we have our frosted cake all ready to decorate with fresh flowers. Now the first thing I'm going to do, because I do plan on putting fresh flowers on top of the cake, is ahead of time what I had done is cut a wax paper circle slightly smaller than the top of the cake, and I just piped onto a circle of frosting, and I placed that right on top of the cake. And the reason for that is that since you're going to be putting flowers right into the cake, if you can put it into the frosting instead, there's just fewer holes into the cake itself. Now, I usually decorate cakes with fresh flowers. You can get them from a florist who might be providing flowers for a wedding or special occasion anyway. But you can also just get them from a local supermarket. They don't need to be anything particularly specific to a cake. The only thing that you want to keep in mind is that they can't be flowers that will die if they're out of water for 20 minutes. It needs to be something that will last for several hours out of water. It's really just personal preference where the flowers may go. Now the nice thing about having this cake support system is that there's plenty of room to simply place flowers between the layers of the cake, and that makes it very easy to take the cake apart and serve afterwards without worrying about picking flowers out of the cake. If this is for a wedding, you could certainly have the florist who's providing the flowers for the wedding itself provide the flowers, a few extra flowers for the cake. And the nice thing about that is that they would match. Or you could simply, if you're not interested in having the flowers match, or if it's for a special occasion, you could simply get flowers yourself from a florist or from a local supermarket. I think the only challenge with putting fresh flowers on a cake is knowing when to stop. And this is where one of the nice things to do with a cake is to put some greenery around the bottom, just to set it off, especially also if it's going to be on a display table. I'll just put one more. Greenery, which most florists or any place that sells flowers will have, is just a nice way to kind of offset and circle the base of the cake. So as you can see, once you have the top and the sides and the base of the cake decorated with fresh flowers and you're happy the way it looks, I've laid a little bit of greenery around the sides just to make it look a little bit more festive. And you can put the last flower in, and there you have it, a special occasion or wedding cake.